Hello fellow Star Wars fans, my name is Starrapter, welcome back to the channel. Today is my review for Star Wars Cataclysm, part of the High Republic, written by Lydia Kang. This is part of Phase 2, Wave 2 of the High Republic. To give you an idea of where this falls in the official Star Wars timeline, it's about 350 years before The Phantom Menace, bringing it around 150 years before Phase 1 of Light of the Jedi. So in this story, as you can expect from the title, this is where things really heats up. So at this point in time, the Republic is vying for control of the Outer Rim. I wouldn't say control, but they're trying to settle the Outer Rim, trying to bring the communication more into the core. So there's this forever war between Irem and Arona, which was mentioned in the first full-fledged novel written by Zoraida Cordova, Convergence. So we're getting that storyline. We're also bringing up the events of the Battle of Jeddah, which was the audio drama written by George Mann. So you have all these different events happening. You have the main adversaries of the Jedi called the Path of the Open Hand, who are this kind of cult group that believes the Force should not be used. It should be free. The Jedi are utilizing the Force, taking it away, and being basically evil from their perspective. So all roads point to Dalna. This was a planet that was mentioned in Phase 1. It was alluded to a lot. And in Phase 2, this is the culmination, basically, of this phase. You have this event called the Night of Sorrow, and this is one of the darkest chapters in the history of the Jedi. I'm here to confirm that because, man, oh man, a lot of this book, about 2/3 of this book, just about, is basically this huge battle of Dalna. The Jedi are basically almost like put in sort of a trap to where they can't really get out of there. There's a handful of Jedi. The communication systems are all messed up because of the Path of the Open Hand tampered with them, and we get to see this crazy battle that sort of reminds me a little bit of 300 Spartans versus, as well as like Vietnam, because you have these heavily entrenched Path of the Open Hand people that have become very militarized because their hatred of the Jedi has flowed through them through their leader, the Mother. So this book is very much a dark point in the Star Wars timeline that shows what the Jedi are made of, but it does end up having a little bit of hope towards the end, as all good Star Wars stories does. And that's as much as I want to say about the plot, because there's so many twists and turns, so many awesome moments. The positives for me, first of all, are the characters. I think the way Lydia Kang has picked up a lot of the characters as Zoraida Cordova introduced and really runs with them. And, you know, you have standout characters like Axel Greylark, who have so much conflict built into their characters that she's able to establish in the relationships between, let's say, the Chancellor Keon Greylark as well as her son, Axel Greylark. You have a character of Jella and her relationship with Axel. You have a perspective of a child in war, which is a very scary, very terrible perspective as far as, oh my gosh, this is horrifying. You're seeing just the carnage around this little girl. And so these seen perspectives, I would say Lydia Kang is doing a great job of making every character have a big moment in their arcs and having a lot of payoff. I will say that the first couple books of the High Republic Phase 2 did not really hit me as much as I wanted them to, as far as like compared to Phase 1. This book is all that payoff. This book really expands on this huge conflict. It's not so personalized as the first few books. This one really shows the galaxy kind of coming together to battle this evil threat. And it's up there with the Battle of Valo from the Rising Storm, written by Cavan Scott in Phase 1, Wave 2. This is kind of up there with that. I like the idea of how emotionally charged the moments are in this book. There's moments that brought me to tears. There's moments where I literally fist pumped at like a Return of the King-esque moment of Gandalf coming to turn the tide of the battle. You know, there's all different points in here that just really make this book one of the strongest books that I've read in Star Wars in the last couple of years. I would say since The Rising Storm, this could be one of the best Star Wars books written to date. I think that Lydia Kang really should get more Star Wars. I know she's going to be doing Phase 3, the Star Wars magazine issues, stories, the insider stories that are going to bridge the gap in Phase 3 or whatever. But man, I feel like she has so much potential as a writer because she really took me on a journey in this book. to put this in perspective, this was one of those books that I couldn't put down, and even though I couldn't read it in one sitting, which I could have if I wanted to, if I had the time, I was thinking about this book when I was working, doing my my task around throughout the day. When I couldn't read it, I'd be thinking about this book, because that's how much it sunk its claws into me. It really just felt epic and grand, and this is how you kind of close out another chapter in the Star Wars timeline with Phase 2 of the High Republic. Now, there will be an upcoming book written by Cavan Scott, the young adult novel, which is Path of Vengeance, but as far as the novels, it's the final novel, adult novel for Phase 2, and really, it goes swinging. There's incredible moments. You get to see why it's so important for communication going into Phase 1. You see this nice connective tissue of, oh, why is this such a big deal? Why is everybody so happy that the Starlight Beacon exists in Phase 1? It was because in Phase 2, back in time, you get to see how crazy and haphazard things are when the communication buoys get tampered and everything there. So overall, I would say that there's no real negatives. There's the one negative I have, a little nitpick, is I feel like one of the villain characters kind of comes and goes without much acknowledgement, so I would have liked to see more of that, but I also realize this is not just a single book. This is part of an initiative, and I know Path of Vengeance will probably deal with that very character, so I'm not really too worried about that. That being said, I gotta give this book, Star Wars Cataclysm, a score of a 9.5 out of 10. This ranks it up there for me with Light of the Jedi, with The Rising Storm. It's great to see the High Republic hit these absolute highs, not just for the High Republic, but for Star Wars books in general. You guys know the channel if you've been watching before. I've basically read, I don't want to brag too much, but I've basically read every Star Wars canon novel to date. So to say that this falls in the top, I'd say maybe top 8, top 6, top 7 Star Wars canon books, you know this is a book you should be picking up, right? So I highly recommend this book. Obviously, you're going to want to read Convergence first. You're going to want to read or listen and experience Battle of Jedha, because there's a big ramifications from that story that translate into this. But the characters are very likable, very engaging. Even the villain characters, I really felt there's a lot of gray area in these characters. It's not very cut or dry. Characters, you don't know what's going to happen to them. That's why part of the reason why I love the High Republic, all the original characters, that we don't know their fates until the very end or whenever. So there you go. Lydia Kang, you did an awesome job with this book. As I said, hopefully we get to see you do more Star Wars stories in the future in this sort of format, because I think she did a fantastic job. So for more on the High Republic and Star Wars Celebration and more, you're already in the right place. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this very channel and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when I go live with my podcast, when new videos go out, and all that jazz. So that's going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching. For Light and Life, may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.